Hi, my name is Thenjiwe Niki Nkosi. I'm an artist and I live and work in Johannesburg, South Africa. I've always been interested in sport and athleticism and the capabilities and limits of the human body and the possibility for various kinds of movement. But I also think about sport from a political point of view. How do structures of power use athletes and sporting events, these mega events like the Olympics and like the Commonwealth Games, to legitimize or consolidate themselves? From a metaphorical angle, I think a lot about the similarities between artists and athletes who have to perform, who are under pressure from judging eyes in a very public space, performing either movement or expression through mark making or filmmaking or just making. Right at the beginning of this project, I started looking online for promotional images of the Commonwealth Games and of the games themselves. I was also finding a lot of images of early Commonwealth meetings and images of athletes and also images of people working, a lot of labor that was happening in Commonwealth countries. And I decided that these images somehow belong together, images of extraction, images of the games, images of the Queen and the royal family, images of them traveling to the various Commonwealth countries. And I wanted to see what story they told when put together. The royal family in the film is a symbol. It's a symbol of British imperialism, and it's a symbol of a relationship that has always been advantageous to Britain and extractive of its colonies or from its colonies. And in researching the project, it was really interesting and disturbing to see how many companies that were created during the British Empire morphed and changed shape over time to become companies that still exist today and that we know. For example, the Royal Dutch Shell Company then became Shell that we know, and most of the mining companies, all of the mining companies, were extractive projects on the African continent. The tea companies all over Southeast Asia. It's quite interesting to see their beginnings and the support that they had from the royal family, in the early part of last century and before, hundreds of years before. One of the great successes of the Commonwealth, or so-called successes, was how it veiled and hid its imperialist roots, the British Empire and the violence that it used to create itself. So after an initial period of research into the Commonwealth, I realized that what I wanted to do was to hold up this promotional effort to show people that say, hey, this is how this is working. The Commonwealth is a tool of propaganda, in fact. And I decided that in showing how the Commonwealth is this promotional tool, I wanted to use promotional tools like film and the posters and online media. So that's why the project has these three components of the name game, the same track, and the website. The decision to remove the athletes from the footage was born out of a few questions and concerns, and for me it was clear that this film was going to be about the structure of the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth Games, about their function and how they worked and still work to uphold British imperialism. And so in order to reveal that structure, I realized that I needed to remove the spectacle and the drama of sport and the sporting event. So in the film you'll see that the camera pans around a track, but the lanes are empty of runners, and the viewer can only see digital traces of their presence. And the crowds are cheering into a stadium that is essentially like a void. They're cheering nobody on. So removing the athletes in this way, I think, lays bare the structure that is around them. what is the structure that holds up the spectacle, and what happens when you remove the spectacle? What is the thing that remains? And what is revealed, in my mind, is an economic and political relationship